Hey friends, welcome to Shigaraki. So today we are going to see, what if Deku was raised by Dumbledore? So before we start, check out my Patreon page for 18+ exclusive mature content. We will now proceed to the video. I had only been back a few days and really wished I could have stayed at Hogwarts. But I had wished a time or two to be back here where I see. Old tell when someone might try to kill me and why. I yawned before closing my history book. It had nothing about other schools, but there had to be others. The next morning I waited until both Uncle Vernon and Dudley were gone before going downstairs. I won't be feeding you. If you wanted to eat, you should have been on time, Aunt Petunia said. I wanted to snort at that. Even if I had been on time, I more than like would not been allowed to eat. I am not hungry. I do however have a question, I said. She glared at me but said to ask. Could you take me to that alley? I asked. Why would I do that? She snapped out. I could tell she was not pleased. I was hoping to find out if there are other schools, maybe I could find one that goes year-round, I said. I was quickly ordered to get what I would need. It did not take me long to get my backpack. I had gotten it ready last night just in case she agreed to take me. On the way over I was told she would be back to me at 4 and if I wasn't there I would be left to find my own way home. I slipped on a hat before even going into the leaky and rushed thought just in case someone spotted me. I did not want to be mobbed again. I was lucky enough to be able to follow a few people into the alleyway. I sighed once in the bank. Thankfully it did not take too long to reach the front of the line. Key please, the goblin said. I handed over and was told to follow Carnot. Can I ask you a few questions? I asked. Only one speed, Carnot said. Oh, I knew that. Giphook told me that last time. I just have some questions about my vault. I really should have asked them last time, but Hagrid was in such a hurry, I said. Ask your questions, Carnot said. I nodded. Did as he said. He jerked the cart to a stop after I asked how I could tell how much I had in my vault. He pulled a few levers that had us turning around, and once we were back to our starting point he ordered me to follow him. He led me to an office with a nameplate of Barler on it. What brings you here? The goblin asked once we were told to enter. This wizard had questions about his vault. Questions that should have been answered in his statements or by his account manager, Carnot said. I blinked at that. The other goblin that I assumed to be Barler said he saw before telling him something in a language I did not understand. Have a seat, wizard, and tell me your questions, Barler said. I nodded at what he said before telling him why I was here. I could tell both goblins were displeased. I will look into why this was allowed to happen. And getting funds and those questions. What were your reasons for coming here today? Barler asked. I looked at him, then for some reason told him everything that had happened to me this year at school. I found myself smiling when I was told he would take care of this for a small sum. Thank you, I said while holding out my hand for him to shake. Sir, while you are handling that, might I make a suggestion that the child is seen to by the healers, Carnot said. It would be best. A school nurse would not know what to look for when it comes to damage from dark spirits, Barler said. By noon I had been given a complete checkup and something had been found in my scar. However, by 3, whatever it was, it had been removed. 30 minutes later I was back in Barler's office. He had the basic information I needed about other schools and how to get out of Hogwarts without being forced to go back. So if I have an OWL and NEWT they cannot force me to return there. I asked. Barler nodded. Would you know what subject would be easiest to test in? I asked. I would have to take their advice as I was still too new to magic. The Muggle Studies test would be easiest. From what I have been told by my human coworkers, it is very outdated, Barler told me. I sighed and asked him to arrange the test for me. Before I left his office we had arranged to meet within a week's time. He should have my testing arranged by then. Most importantly, he would have the problems with my vaults fixed and all the information on other schools. Yes, I had more than one it seems, and a family member that with to meet with me. What did you find out? Aunt Petunia asked once I was in the car. I found a way out of Hogwarts and will have to return in a week to finish handling everything else, I told her. I was not surprised when she asked if there was a way it could be helped to go faster along. I was told to get a passport, I said, even though I had not been told so. Getting out of the country would be easier with one. We will go update yours tomorrow, She told me. I blinked. I did not realize I had one already. I wanted to ask why I had one, but felt I had used all my goodwill up. I was also told not to tell Vernon or Dudley about my plans to leave, that she would handle it when I was gone. I felt like a spy sneaking around the next week. Not only did we get the passport, but shocked me, she also got me some clothes that fit. Said not to let them be seen. I just nodded at that. Before I knew it, a week had gone by and it was time for me to return. Insisted of telling me a time to return or find my own way home. I was told to call when I was finished. I told her I would. Just as I was closing the car door, she wished me good luck. It is good to see you once more, child, and you are looking healthy, Carnot said as we meet up in the bank lobby. It is thanks to those potions, and I was fed more this week, I told him. He gave me this look, but said nothing. I had always known the way I had been treated was not perfect or even right, but nothing anyone had done helped to change it. This is the child that wishes to take an OWL and NEWT test after only having 1 year at Hogwarts. You do realize these marks will go on your record. Come test time you will not be allowed to retake them, the witch said. I nodded and told her I was ready for the test. I knew the test would be very easy. The day after getting my passport updated, I had been given money so I could get everything I would need to pass the test. And after reading the books for the class, one had to laugh. It was very outdated. It only took my half the time to finish the first test and just about the same time more or less to finish the second. The witch giving to exam was not to please when she was not allowed to leave until the exams were graded, as Barler wanted copies for my new file in the bank. Please forgive my attitude before you began your test. Every year we get Muggleborns that wish to take the test and do not seem to know what they are taking about. I had one tell me that Muggles have been to the moon. She said Carnot had warned me to say nothing. I can understand that. I just wanted to get this test out of the way. My mother is Muggleborn and wanted me to take it at Hogwarts next year, but they will not allow students to take tests early. I plan to take care, runes and arithmancy. So father allowed me to take the test this summer, I said. She nodded at me before collecting the papers and leaving. Why did she not say anything about who I am? I asked once I was back in Barler's office. I spelled you to look different and the test is charmed so that the examiner cannot read the test's name. It will be automatically filed by you magical signatory, and I had learned in the past week your file is sealed. He told me. The rest of the day was spent going over what he had learned from looking into my questions from last time. My old account manager had been killed because he had allowed a wizard to steal from me most my vaults. Yes, vaults. Most had been sealed until they were audited. When I learned the Dursley had been getting money for my upkeep, I told him that very little had to have been used on me. Barler assured me he would find out where it had all gone to and have it returned, even if he had to take it out of their hide. The last thing we spoke about were the other schools. I think is best we avoid the main schools such as Beauxbatons, Durmstrang and Evermorny. The first two heads of the school can be called too close to Dumbledore, and the last would brag they have you defeating the pursuit of being hidden, Barler said. What about schools in Japan? I asked. There are a few, the main one being Mahoutokuro, but it is very hard to transfer in for outsiders such as yourself. There are a few day schools and cram schools that would allow you to take non-magical classes, Barler said. I would like to do the last one, please. Everyone that knows me in the magical would know how much I love magic and would not look for me on a normal school, I said. It would be easiest to hide you there, and a language lozenge would allow you to speak the language, while a rune pillow would allow you to learn to read and write the language, he said more to himself. I can already speak the language along with a few others. And what are language lozenges? I asked. You can. When I have the pillow picked up, I will order a set of the lozenges in languages you do not know. They are like Muggle cough drops that allow you to learn different languages, Barler said. After finding out what languages I did know, Carnot was sent out to get an advanced set and the pillow that would allow me to learn reading and writing as well. The sooner we can get you overs, the better. We will have to get you a passport. However, doing so might bring our plans to Dumbledore's attain. The other meeting you have today is risky as well, Barler said. I have one and all the papers my aunt said I would need. I told him before handing it over. He looked through them and smiled before telling me this will help greatly. 2 days after that I found myself on a plane Carno. TT had been paid to go with me to help me settle in. We spent 3 days in a hotel, but by July 6th I had my own apartment near where my best friend should live. While Carnot got my apartment warded and ready for me, I was tossed into my new school. I stopped to take a deep breath before entering the office. "Hello, how may I help you?" a woman with cat ears asked. I smiled at her before handing all my paperwork over. It had my test results from the entire exam I had to take just to enter the school and other needed paperwork. "I had not realized you were the transfer student. I am pleased, Ed, that you already have the needed uniform." She did something on a computer before telling me to follow her. She led me to a room and said for me to wait outside. She returned with a man whom induced himself as my homeroom teacher. "So why come here?" the man asked once we on our way to the classroom. "I am fluent in the language and have a pen friend from here when I was little," I said. The man just nodded at that. "Wait here and I will call you in," he told me. I nodded I would. This was it, a new start. Hopefully no one from my old life would be able to find me. After all, they would be looking for the boy who lived and not the girl I really was. I had always known I was a girl, but Aunt Petunia had forced me to dress, act and tell others I was a boy. It had been one of the last things I had asked her before leaving. She didn't answer, but sniffed at me before shoving 2 books into my hands. They were diaries with letters tucked inside of them. One of the diaries belonged my Mo. Her and the other was Aunt Petunia's, while the letters were the ones sent between them. The first letter was one addressed to me from my parents. It explained why they had asked for me to be hidden as a boy if something had happened to them. While I had been born a girl, both my parents thought it best no one knew I was a girl, because female heirs would go missing while male heirs were killed outright. The second letter was from Aunt Petunia telling me why she had gone along with their idea. Carnot had sent word to Barler to help her find the wizard that had used her that way, and I paid for them to deal with him. My parents had trusted her with my secret and all the proper paperwork, while the ones Hogwarts had were fakes. It was only after seeing my birth certificate that I learned my name was not in fact Harry James Potter, but Harriet Jamie Potter Black. I had asked about the black name. Barler said he would have to look into it. I looked at my new classmates and bowed in greeting. The teacher introduced me and wrote my name on the board. I was told to take a seat next to Midoriya. I was thankful when said person raised his hand. I could not help overhead the talk as I made my way to the set. It seems the poor boy was quirkless and a few thought it was okay to pick on him for it. Time passed all too quickly for my liking. School for once in my lifetime seemed to be all right. I still hadn't talked to Bakugo to see if he was indeed my pen friend. I just couldn't bring myself to do so after how I saw him treat Midoriya. While he wasn't as bad as some of our classmates, he did bully the poor boy. I stopped when I heard the fighting and was not surprised to see whom was fighting. "Stop it," I yelled, and when it was clear they did not intend to do so I took off my glasses. They blocked the freezing part of my quirk. "Midoriya, come over here and we will go back to my place to get cleaned up." I had to blink a few times when he did not more. It was only then I realized he could not move. Well shit, I guess I had to stick around until they could move. What was that? Bakugo was yelling more than asking when he was able to. "My quirk now, follow me. We need to go see someone," I said. "And why should we do that?" he snapped out. "Because my quirk does not affect the quirkless, yet Midoriya was frozen too. So he must have a quirk," I said. They looked at each other and glared, but nonetheless followed after me. If they hadn't, I would have frozen them and called for a car. It did not take long to reach my cram school, and thankfully the head teacher was there today. Once in his office, I explained everything to him. He hummed afterward and called the nurse in. "Examine the boys, they had a tiny scuffle," he said. I was thankful the boys did not ask what was going on. A few spells later I could tell something was wrong. "You need to call in their parents. Someone has placed blocks on both of the boys. The one of this child is so tight it seems to be blocking his quirk," she said. I shuddered at that. "What is going on?" Bakugo demanded. I sighed and was about to explain when Sensei T said he would explain once their parents were here. It did no take long after he made the call for them to show up. Tea was offered and declined by most save for myself. In the short time I had known Sensei, I knew he would not start any meeting without giving someone tea. And it was very good tea, better than I have ever had before. Sensei explained how we had come to be here and how my quirk worked. He then let the nurse explain about the blocks and how sometimes they could or would block a quirk. Can you help my son? Mrs. Midoriya asked. We can remove the block and enroll the children in the summer classes to catch them up, Sensei T said. WHO could have placed these blocks on them, Mrs. Bakugo asked. I am not sure, but by removing them it will cause them to backlash at the caster, and we do need to remove them. Blocks can be deadly if left on a child too long, Sensei said. An hour later we all were in one of the school's ritual rooms. It was easy to remove the block on Bakugo as it merely hid his magic from being detected. The blow CK on Midoriya was worse and had him screaming. At least we knew what his quirk was. It was a week before both of them could return to school, and for some reason Midoriya never told anyone about his quirk. Why? I asked. Midoriya held up a paper that said he wanted to keep it a secret as in asking me to come over for dinner that night to explain everything better. Later after dinner I learned it was his so-called father that had placed the blocks on them. And the backlash had killed him. I knew there was a high chance of that happening. It was only going through papers sent back with his body they found out just how Izuku had a quirk not related to anyone in his family. His so-called father wasn't able to have children, but in his line of work that did not mean much. So are you going to contact him? I asked once everything was explained. We need to. Izuku needs to learn how to control his quirk, and as of right now he cannot speak, Inko said. Would you like for me to be there? I asked. No, dear, we are going to do this ourselves. It is high time we stood up for ourselves, Mrs. Midoriya said. I had asked why she was still using her married name, only to be told her former husband had took her name when they married. Okay, I understand that. But this is my lawyer's card. Please call him before you go and have him go with you, I said. They gave me odd looks. I could telephone. They wanted to ask why someone my age had a lawyer, but thankfully did not. Do you know why Deku's not here today? Bakugo asked as he sat down next to me at lunch. They went to meet him today, I said. Oh, I forgot. I should have gone with them or sent the hag, he said. While at school they acted like that had in the past, but we're working to become friends again outside of school and while we were in cram classes. I sighed before taking a breath. I had been trying for some time now to tell him I was his pin friend from childhood, but could never think of a way to tell him. Tell him the real reason you and the other boys decided to be mean to him. I know it is not because you thought he was quirkless, I said. He glared at me and was quick to pull me to my feet. How do you know that? He demanded with a boom. I told him his answer was in my bag, and it was in the form of all the letters he had sent to me. How did you get these? He asked after reading them, and I told him the story Barler, Carnot and I had worked out. How my parents had been heroes and were killed, but their killer wanted to whip out the family. How he tried to kill me and failed. So they got him. He asked. No, he was able to get into the school I was in last year. It was the main reason for me to change schools, I said. But what if he finds you again? He asked. I knew he was kind deep down. Thanks to fake papers, everyone in my old school thought I was a boy, and my aunt knew that my parents had told everyone they had a son. So she forced me to act as a boy all my life with her. I told him it was only then I realized why she made me cook and clean as she did. It was all things a girl would learn while growing up. So you're safe? He asked. Yes, I have a top-notch wire and a bodyguard that lives in the apartment next door. Plus this summer we are going to cram school, I said. He moaned at that and said not to remind him of the fact he had to go to school in the summer. You didn't read all the paperwork, did you? I said. His look told me his answer. So I pulled out my booklet and quickly opened it up, the page about hero training, and showed it to him. What if this is right? We could get a provisional license before we even get into high school, he said. We will have to work for it, but I think we can do it, I said. I am coming over to study, and tomorrow I will drag Deku with me. You don't mind if we come to your place, do you? He asked. I knew if I said no he would show up anyway. You're both welcome, but we best study at the school. That way, we could do some lesson in magic, and Carnot would not allow me to be alone with two boys in the first place, I said. What kind of quirk does that guy have anyway? He asked. You really need to stew. Die more if you do not know what a goblin is. I told him. He blushed at that but said nothing. The rest of lunch was filled with small talk, but as we made our way back to class one had a feeling something was wrong. Bakugo, go to the principal's office. Miss Potter, do you need to see the nurse? Our math teacher asked. No, why would I? I asked before Bakugo could ask why he was being sent there. I was told that Bakugo attacked you at lunch. Is that not the case? She asked. I glared at her, then to the girl I knew had told. They did not seem to care if a quirkless boy was attacked, but when happened to someone with a quirk they took action. I would have to talk to both the Bakugos and the Midoriyas tonight. This could not go on. It might be best if we talked to the other two boys in the group too about this. They did after all pick on him to keep him safe as well, and they were the only ones I ever saw doing so. I had even once or twice overheard them having words with those they thought went too far against Izuku. Whomever told you that is a liar. Kachan and I are old friends. He was just shocked when I told him so at all. I said only for the teacher to smile at me in disbelief. But she did allow us to take our seats. Why did you want to talk to us? Fingers asked. I think it is high time you told Izuku the truth about why you three pick on him, I said once we were in a cafe. The other two boys looked at each other then to Bakugo for answers. Why? He asked, and I told him, and once I was done all three were glaring. Auntie Inko will not like it and Deku will be pissed, but Hai-chan is right. Fingers said Izuku had started that nickname and so far only he and Kachan were the ones I allowed to use his. I blinked at that before asking did she know? Only to be told she had confronted all of them and their parent about it ages ago. While she did not like it, she understood and thanked them for doing what they thought they needed to protect her son. I could tell Izuku was a little worried as to why he was in a room with people that bullied him along with their families. He frowned when his mother told him to hear them out before asking his questions. I was expecting him to yell or cry after they got done talking, but he just laughed. What the hell, this is no laughing matter. We tried our best to make your life hell, and when we tell you the reason you laugh about it. Kachan yelled. Yes, because I knew about it from the start. In the future if you are going to make plans to keep a friend safe, do not do it at the secret fort said friend knows about. He told them. I had to laugh at that. They spent dinner making plans to get to know each other once more. They even invited me along for some of the trips because I was the one to help them get along better. When it was just Midoriya, Bakugo and myself, I told them what had happened in class. You're right, something must be done, but you will leave it to us adults. Mitsuki said. She gave Inko a look. Wim nodded. Suddenly I felt very bad for those in charge of our school, like we had unleashed something on them. Before I knew it was the end of July, Barler said he would forward any gifts sent from my friends. But I wasn't looking forward to them as they hadn't sent that many letters. I got 2 from Hermione, both reminding me to do my homework. And 1 from Ron saying he had asked his parents to ask Dumbledore if I could come over the last few days of the summer. I had a lot of fan mail that did not surprise me, but what did was the letter from Malfoy of all people. In it, he apologized for how he acted on the train. His mother had explained to him how more than like did not know the customs of the magical world. I had spent the last few days tried to write him a letter of apologize myself. As the heir and next head of the Black family, I would have to work with him at some point in the future. Harry Potter must not go back to Hogwarts. A elf said as I came in to my bedroom, making me jump clear out of my skin. Why? I asked. It told me about the plot to harm me. I hummed and nodded at what were hopefully the right points. Okay, I will stay away from Hogwarts on one condition, I said. The elf nodded its head so fast I thought it might flop off. I left some of my belongings at the school. Can you collect them for me? I have a bag you can put everything in to make it easier, I said. Dobby can do that for great Harry Potter. What are you things? He asked. They should all have my magical signature on them. You can also ask the school elves for help if need be, I said. He asked for something of mine. I gave him my pillowcase as I would not miss it if he was not able to return. Once he was gone, I was quick to head over to Kranat's apartment. Home was not too pleased when I told him about the elf popping in. Dobby's point of view. Dobby had been waiting for a time to talk to the great Harry Potter. His muggles were odd ones, but they were muggles. Dobby had planned to get the great Harry Potter to not go to Hogwarts by stopping his mails. But nuns never come for the boy, so on his day of birth I tells him not to go back. So I wait. For the great Harry Potter in his room. The muggles never came in here and Dobby did not want to deal with muggles. The great Harry Potter even agreed not to go back if I could get things he left behind. Why is an outside elf at Hogwarts? You is not free, said one of the elves. I be collecting things left behind, I said. They be in come and go room. It be to see job to place them there. She be showing the room. The elf said. I nodded at that. A female elf told me to follow her before popping away. I followed her. We came to a stop in a hallway. Tell to see truth. Why a Malfoy elf really be here? She asked while glaring at me. Dobby might be a Malfoy elf, but I is doing this for great Harry Potter, I told her. Tissy said she should be telling headmaster, but said she owed the great Harry Potter. What he be doing for yous? I asked. She told me about the two-faced man and how the great Harry Potter made him leave. Tissy should not be telling you of the things belong to Potterdeath. Are hidden in headmaster's office or the things with Potter's blood. Tissy will be packing things she thinks Potter would like form, come and go room. Best you wait right here while Tissy does this, she said before walking in front of the wall. On her third pass a door popped into place. Once Dobby was alone. Dobby popped off to get the hidden things and the things with great Harry Potter's blood. Dobby knew that blood could be used to track the great Harry Potter. What's you be doing? Asked the elf I had first spoken to. I was sent to get anything with this magic, Dobby said holding out the pillowcase. The elf touched it and closed his eyes. Once open again, he telling me my master being very forgetting and said he would help collect books. Dobby frowned at the hidden things. Dobby J. Ust knew they were not things left as the great Harry Potter would not have left some of them. Tissy and other be done packing things. We even go and get things that are other places, Tissy said. Do. BBY be thanking you all and will tell the great Harry Potter what's you did for him, Dobby told him before popping back to the great Harry Potter. He was in his room once more when Dobby returned. Harriet point of view. Dobby be bringing all the things that be belonging to the great Harry Potter, Dobby said. I thanked him and he looked like he was going to cry. Harry Potter promises not to go back to Hogwarts, Dobby said. I have no reason to return, I said. Dobby nodded before popping away. Carnot was quick to pull off my invisibility cloak. He told me he would take everything and have it checked over, but I would be spending the night in his guest room until our places had a ward that would keep out unwanted elves. It took a week for a team to place wards to keep out elves in. The end we ended up getting an elf as they could use their magic to keep other elves out. You have been out of sorts for the past week. Is something the matter? Does it have to do with before? Katsu. He asked as we walked towards the school. Izuku would join us soon. Yes and no, but if you notice Izuku had noticed too, so I better just wait to explain when he gets here, I said. Once he joined us, I told them about Dobby and how he did not wish for me to return to my old school. But you were enrolled in a different school already, Izuku said. I know that, but no one else does. We made sure of that. The elf coming to warn me away as proof our plans are working. Anyway, it worked in our favor. I had the elf collect things that belonged to my family that were being kept for me. There are things that could have been used to find me. Barler is still going through everything that was brought back, I said. That is good. Oh, mother wants to go shopping in the district this weekend. Would you two like to join us? Izuku asked. I'll join you. I need to go anyway. I am low on some of my potions and I have been advised to get a pet for protection, I said. What are you going to get? Both boys asked. Not sure. I am going to look. I am not fond of hounds or cats, but they offer the best protection, I told them. Before I really knew it, the weekend was here. Even though we have been here more than once, it seems we find something new with each visit, Mrs. Bakugo said. I think that is the best part, Inko said as she slipped on her overrobe. This was one of the better things out magical Japan. It was not stuck in the past. Is there anything you children need to do first? Inko asked. I told her I had to drop off my prescriptions, then I wanted to look at the animals. I did ask what they wanted to do as they had invited me to come with them. Kranot hated shopping but would go with me if need be. But because I had 2 adults and 2 of my classmates whom had wand rights. He allowed me to go without him this time. Izuku and I have a meeting at the bank here in a little while, she said. Izuku asked why and frowned when he was told it had to do with that man. Why are we going then? Izuku asked. I am not sure, but I was advised to go and to bring you, she said. Izuku sighed but said he would go. I am going with Hai-chan to look at pets, going to make sure she gets something to protect her. Kachan said. You just want to look at the kittens, his mother said. Kachan blushed but said nothing. I knew he had a weakness for small fluffy animals. 2 hours later both Kachan and I had pets. He got a Neasel kitten and I got a Kitsune kit. What every meeting Izuku and his mother had been called to was still taking place. Stop with the pacing. In magical families long meetings are a good thing. It is the short ones you have to worry about. I told Kachan, whom was still pacing in worry. His mother was no better with her tapping foot. It took another half-hour before they joined us. Mrs. Midoriya asked we allow them to order something to eat and drink before asking our questions. I had a few, most were rude ones. That was the main reason I had not asked them. I really wanted to know what Hisashi name was before he married. I knew very little about the man, but he had to come from an old family, otherwise he would not have been able to get someone to place blocks or binds on Kachan and Deku. I knew from reading his death report the man had been a squib. But squibs were treated very differently in Japan than England due to the laws. The same C. Oldby said about house elves. We had to fill out tons of paperwork just to get one to protect the apartments. And still yet we were told there would be monthly checkups to make sure we were treating Minnie right. Mrs. Midoriya sighed before telling us whom they had met. I choked when she said the name Tatsu. Bloody hell, it was a good thing he was dead. The clan would have killed him otherwise. Would they have? Mrs. Midoriya asked. I blushed due to the fact I had said that out loud. Yes, it is a crime in their clan to harm children in any way. And what he did to Kachan and his own son would have meant his death, I told them. Kachan mom just hugged them both before asking her to finish telling us what happened. Make sure you only tell us what you can, I said. Grandfather Haku said he could tell you all due to the fact you are involved. He also wishes that we all join him for dinner next weekend if convent. Mrs. Midoriya said. I could only nod. Even if it wasn't you did not turn D. Own an invention from a clan head that old. It would be like turning down the Vongola. It just wasn't done. Before we leave today we need to order something to wear. I know, I do not have anything appropriate to meet someone of his standings, I said while Kachan groaned that he hated dressing up. He said we would send someone to help. Izuku said. I looked at him and frowned. More at myself. They were new to magical families. I was too, but knew enough that the person sent would be reporting back to Lord Tatsu. I was quick to tell them that, but by the looks they gave me in return, it was clear they did not believe what I had just told them. A week later I found myself along with the Midoriyas and the Bakugos waiting to meet one of the oldest clans in Japan. Why are there 2 goblins with your party? Asked one of the men at the gate. We are here in place of Lady Potter Black's family, Barler said. The man said. I see before letting us in. Why did they call you a lady? Izuku whispered. I was quick to tell him I would explain later. Due to the rush of getting ready for this meeting it had never thought to them about my standings. Dinner was almost like the meeting I had with Lord Black before I left, only it was held on the floor. What happens after the tournament? I sighed after getting in the car. It had been a long year and I had a feeling it would be a longer summer. It took a minute to realize we were not heading back to the house. Is something wrong? I asked. No, but Pet sent you a letter and said for me to drop you off to meet her. Uncle Vernon said as he and me the letter. After reading the letter I glared at the passing world. I am not sure what I want to say and I am sure I should say something, Uncle said as he stopped in front of the hotel. My aunt was waiting for me. You have done what was right, not what was easy, and thankful, not what that old goat wanted. I want you to get Aunt Petunia and Dudley out as soon as you can. Let others deal with the house and your holdings. You do better with trading than selling drills. Do that and do what you have always done. Keep the family safe, I said before getting out of the car. As much as I want to bring my belonging, I knew they could be tracked. It did not take me long to find my aunt in the cafe. She wasted no time in leading me to the room she had rented. I bowed to the goblin waiting in the room and thanked him for his help. Like the other time we had met, he got right to business, telling me to strip. There were more charms on my this time than before. Don't dress yet, we're not finished just yet, dear. You know I try my best to keep up with what is going on in the school. And I know about the tournament. We wish to see if magic will have you had the head of your family. I looked at her, then to the goblin who was smiling. Goblins were scary when they smiled like a shark. What about the wards? I found myself asking. Let us adults worry about that. I tried to make sure you had a normal childhood. But that man seems set on into making you into a weapon. And you have had to hide a part of you. If everything works out, you will be well out of his or anyone reach. Aunt Petchen Ia told me. I shiver at her tone and turned to Rock. We have wasted enough time, best get down to business, I said. Well said, child Nell, I must deal with the scar fist, he said a few runes later. Some chanting. I was left panting in a heap on the floor. Black anchor had been pulled from my scar. You were brave for a human girl. Some of our bravest warriors would have screamed before you did. Rock told me. I just held up a hand to him. My aunt just made a strangled sound at my gesture. Now on to the real reason we are meeting here. I am sure you remember these rings, Rock said as he sat the rings on the floor in front of me. They matched the air rings I wore. I picked up the Potter ring up first and slid it onto my finger. The Black family ring followed it. I had no doubt they would merge. It was the Lestrange ring that I pick up next that worried me. We were still not sure how I became the heir to that family. My aunt hugged me when it merged with the other two. So what happens now? I asked. First you get dressed and say your goodbyes to your aunt. After that, we will return back to the bank, and when your aunt returns home, she will send your belongings to the bank for a cleaning. After that, you will travel back in time and head to Japan. You will be mostly on your own for that time, and when I meet up with you again, I will help you apply for high school, Rock told me. I looked at him, to my aunt who was trying her best not to cry. You need to do this, you will be safer there, she told me. I just nodded at her, then I gave her a hug before getting dressed. I tea down the nausea after the porte key landed inside the bank. Rock gave me a form to sign with a blood quill. It basically locked all my vaults for an audit. From what little paperwork I had gotten a look at over the last 4 years, I knew something was going on with my vaults. Once the contract was signed, I was lead deeper underground so I could use the bank tubes. Rock looked at me with an odd look. I huffed and hugged him and jumped into the cart before he could say anything. An hour-long cart ride and a short walk later, I was shown to a time room. Each bank had their own room, but the one the London branch was almost never used. I was not able to ask any question before the door was shut. I did not know what would happen, but I was not surprised when I lost what I had eaten once the door was opened. Rock was right when he said not to stand in front of you when released from the time chamber, someone said. I glared at the goblin that spoke. Watch yourself, human, that is Ragnarok, our leader, said the goblin I had puked on. If he wants my respect, he will earn it like Rock has. And how far did I go back? I snapped out. The puked-covered goblin growled at me and I glared at him. Peace, child, and know your place, goblin, least I make you a teller once more. I have some things for you, but first I am to take you to our healers. And you were sent back 2 years for your safety, it seems, Ragnarok said. I nodded and stood. The healing chamber was not far from the time chamber. Once in bed, I was given a few letters, one from my family and another from Rock. I read them while the Lur looked me over, and from their muttering, I could tell I would be here for a few days. I will be a better patient if I am allowed out of bed for a few hours while you do what is needed to heal me. I do have a list of books that, if bought for me, will keep most of my need to move around under wraps, I said. And where would I get the money for said books? The healer asked. I raised an eyebrow and pulled at my money sack. Seeing as they would be my books, I would be paying for them, I said. Ragnarok nodded at me and said he see it taken care of. I was in the hands of the healer for a week. Would be on potions to fix what had been done to me while at Hogwarts. The first few days were like the last few years I was on a flushing potion. From my first year on, I had to have some type of potion flushed from my system, and this year I had a mild love potion keyed to the Weasley girl. By the time I had been released, I had an apartment all set up and a week to get ready to start my new school. Monday morning I found myself standing in front of an actual middle school and found myself scared. The girl who had faced a possessed man, a giant snake and a lot of other things was frightened about going to a normal school. Class, before we start I am going to introduce a new student, Sensei said, drawing the class's attention to himself and me. This is Potter. Sakura. She was homeschooled before moving here. Please treat her kindly. Potter-chan, please introduces yourself and if you wish to share what your quirk is, Sensei said. I looked at him then to the class. As Sensei said, I am Potter. Sakura, feel free to call me by my first name. I am 14 years old. I have been homeschooled due to one reason or another. My quirk can make explosions, I said before bowing to the class. I did leave out the part about my strengthen. It was something still growing and changing. It seemed as I got stronger, so did that part of my quirk. And given whom my father is, it seemed best not to speak about it. That way one could connect us together. 5 months had passed before I knew it and I had settled well in my new home. I sighed as one of my classmates bullied another, all because the boy did not have a quirk. If I was at Hogwarts I might have jumped in to stop it, but it was the teacher's job to do so. But as said teacher did nothing, I would report them and let my lawyer handle it. I bled when they fell into my desk while fighting. It had happened before, but this time it ends up with my cheesecake on the floor. That is enough of that, I snapped before grabbing both boys. It did not take long for the collars to form. I hissed at them to sit down and both did so with big eyes. I turned my glare on those left in the room. They were quick to run away. I snapped that they were cowards as they fled. Bakugo, you will explain why you always picking on Midoriya, and I mean right now. I am over whatever this is and I am sure other in the class is too. It is a shame that Sensei let this go on as he has, I said. Bakugo said it was because Midoriya did not have a quirk that he was below us. I told him to pull the other one, it had bells on it, before demanding the truth. He glared at me then glared at Midoriya before sighing and telling us how the real reason he picks on Midoriya. I wanted to slap them both, but refrained as something wasn't adding up. I just did not know what it was. You are both idiots. And why do you think he doesn't have a quirk? I asked. I could have sworn that Midoriya had an analyzing quirk. It was quickly explained to me how Midoriya's mother had taken him to a doctor who said he had 2 joints on his left foot. And he had never had shown a power like others had. That left joint thing, quack doctoring, it had been proving false 90% of the time. I can prove of that, and if you do not believe me, I'll go get my foot x-rayed right now. Those that have a quirk and joints tend to have their quirks appear later on in life, I said. They looked at me then. For some odd reason Bakugo was glaring at me, but Midoriya looked at me like he was going to cry. Do you have anything to prove that? Besides your word, that is? Midoriya asked. A few books and a number to a doctor that wrote the paper about it. If you and your mother wish to join me for dinner, I can show you to them and contact the doctor for you if you wish, I said. I tried not to flinch when he hugged me. He was stronger than he looked. It must have been all the working out he had started doing. He had run out the door before I could tell him where I lived. I also did not get the chance to remove the collar. I turned to Bakugo, who was still glaring at me for some reason. Why are you still glaring at me? I asked. Not here and remove this thing, he said. I sighed before removing the collar. He ended up pulling me from the room and up on the roof, where he told me that he thought Midoriya had a quirk, but not a flashy one or one that could be used in hero work like he wanted. And how Deku's father had asked him to protect his child as he tended to get in over his head because he did not think things through. In a way, you are both wrong and right. Wanting to protect your only friend is the right thing to do, but you happen to be going about it the wrong way. I'll make sure he gets the books and seen by the doctor. It is going to take a few months before he could even see him well past the exams, and you should let him take them. If he does have a quirk like you think, then it would be helpful to heroes, just not in battles. Think of all the information he old share. Who knows what would save a life. He did save you a few weeks ago and seemed to take the talking to heart. He has been working out even in class. All you can do is try your best to keep him safe. I told him before leaving the roof. I was walking to the bus stop when M came running up to me. I held out my address to him and said nothing as I got on the bus. I did wonder if his mother would say something about the collar or the tag. A few hours later I found myself dining with people again. Midoriya. His mother had even brought a cake for afterward. I explained what I knew over dinner. It wasn't much, but I did say I would allow them to borrow the books. I even gave his mother the number for the doctor, telling her he had ways of testing would show if her son had a different quirk than herself and her late husband. Studies have now showed it happened from time to time in the older generation of quirk users. How do you know that? She asked. I have thankfully had a different quirk than my mother, I said. Oh, what is hers? Asked. She could change genders from female to male, I said. While that was true, it really was from male to female. It was how I came to be after all. We were not sure where the explosion quirk came from, as Grandpa Fleement was a shape changer while Grandma Mwana could control air. Oh, I am sorry, I did not realize, he said. It is fine, you did not know. I told them as I stood to clear the dishes. Both were quick to help me, just I was quick to tell his mother to stay seated and to let the young people do the work. It is getting rather late, we should be going. Izuku-kun. Your classmate might still have homework and we would not want to get her in trouble with her father, Mrs. Midoriya said. I could tell by her tone she did not like the fact I had been here so long with them and yet not adult had shown up to join us. I finished my homework while waiting for you two to arrive. Curry is an easy dish to start before school and I do like it a lot, so I always make extra. Oh, before you go, let me remove that collar. I should have removed it when you first showed up, I said. My answer must have made them realize something. But thankfully nothing was said. They thanked me for having them before they left. School went on like before. Bakugo still picked on Midoriya and I had talked to the doctor, who agreed to see him only after the deadline for UA passed. Oddly enough, I found myself getting invited to dinner at Midoriya's home at least once a month. Sakura, can I talk to you a second? Bakugo asked. I knew he had stayed behind while I cleaned the classroom. Those I shared the duty with had skipped out once they realized he was not leaving. I had been a little shocked when he even helped me with the cleanup. What can I do for you? I asked. He blushed and mumbled something. I blinked before asking him to repeat what he had said. I asked if you would go out with me for a move. He asked. Sure, just no sappy ones or anything about snakes, I said with a shudder. I disliked snakes after about getting eaten by one. Would this Saturday work for you and your family? He asked. It would have to be in the afternoon. I have cram school until 12:30 on Saturdays and it is fine with me, I said. What about your parents? He asked. I sighed before telling him it was just me at home. You live by yourself? He asked. I nodded. My dad is a big-time hero, and if his enemies found out about me they would hurt me to hurt him. I am not even sure if he knows about me, but my mom and stepdad were killed when I was 18 months. I lived with my aunt and uncle until the end of last year. But I wanted to go to UA, but you need 2 years of schooling here, so I moved with their permission, I told him. He looked at me oddly but said nothing. After our date, I was a little surprised when I found myself invited to his house for dinner just as much as Midoriya. Before I had realized it was time for high school exams and in 2 days my time would be up. Bakugo must have thought I was worried about the exams. He told I had nothing to worry about. I would blast my way through the exams. I did give him a light blast for corny puns, but thanked him for trying to make me not worry. Why am I here again? Kachan asked as he set the table. Deku went for his test today and if he has a quirk you should be the to explain it to him. I told him as I sat the soup to simmer. You say that if you already know the answer, he said as he came back into the kitchen. After you told me what you did, I started paying a little more attention to him and I think you're right about his quirk, I said as the doorbell rang. I yelled I was coming and somewhat hurried out of the kitchen telling him to watch the soup. Come in Midoriya's inquest. I said. I stepped aside to let them all in. I had found it odd when Izuku had called asking if it would be alright if they brought a quest. I told them it was fine, but D asked if there was anything said quest like to eat. It took so doing, but the menu was easy enough to fix so I would have enough to feed everyone. Katsuki-kun, I did not realize you would be here, Inko said as she stepped into the kitchen. I heard Izuku stumble at that inside. Kachan would have a lot to explain tonight and I hope Izuku and his mother could forgive him for how he acted over the years. Did you get into UA? She asked. We both did, I said as Izuku introduced their guest. We should go get a cake and have some party after all three of you got into UA. I blinked at that. How the hell did you get in with your quirk? Kachan yelled. Everyone looked at him. It just woke up not too long ago, Izuku said. Bullshit, you have had your quirk for a while, Kachan snapped. Katsuki-kun, what are you talking about? Inko asked softly. I would like to know this too. I thought Izuku-kun was quirkless, the blonde said. Kachan sighed and before sitting down and explained everything. Even about Izuku's quirk and what his father had asked him to do. Why would he do that and why would you listen? You hate me, Izuku said. Dumbass, you're the only person I think of as a friend besides Sakura, that is. I would say you're my best friend even. Uncle Hisashi left some letters with Mom for you both. I don't know what they are about. I was sent from the room when he spoke to my parents about them. But I think they have to do with your quirk. Speaking of that, what did the doctor say? Bakugo asked. Friend, you have a way of treating your friends and I had mother cancel the appointment. Izuku said as he took the letter. I twitched at that. I would hear about that later on. Goblin healers did not just see anyone. Izuku, you know about our quirks, right? Now think about this. How many times a day have you seen anyone pat us on our back? I know you've seen other girls in class giggle and clasp hands over something. How many times was I included? If Kachan hit a home run in gym, can you name someone besides yourself gave him a pat on the back in congratulation? I asked. Izuku look was all the answer I needed. So you kept your friend's quirk a secret even from himself to keep him safe? Toshinori asked. Kachan just nodded. He looked at all of us and nodded before changing into the All Might. After I cursed at his actions, both boys looked at me. What? I asked before saying I had cursed and they had never heard me do so before. Children, the Almighty said. We all snapped our attention to him. He told us his story and just how he had to meet Izuku and the power he had given him. I was a little shocked when Izuku mom slapped the man. I think it must have shocked him to so much so he went back to his smaller form. I knew she would do that. Kachan said just soft enough that everyone could hear him. I looked at Izuku, then the man the world saw as a hero and wanted to blow him up. I knew about the power of the all for one and one for all. A black had carried it once. I said nothing as I walked out of the room. I needed to make a phone call. I knew everyone was looking at me, but the world needed that stupid man and Izuku would need him more. It had taken years for Cousin Marui's to use that power and he had his predecessor there to help train him. If I left this alone and did not ask, Izuku would to have that. The phone rang 3 times before being answered. If a person has no stomach, could they take potion? I asked. They would have to have it regrown first. Have you shoved one of your bombs down someone's stomach? And Zhu, to let you know your friend did not show for his appointment, the healer asked. No, but someone I know has lost his and is very damaged. Not sure how he is alive, but he needs healing. He can afford to pay for it, he is a hero. I said. Healer snag hummed before telling me to bring the person to his clinic, then hung up on me. Shoes on people, dinner will have to wait, we're going out, I said. Kachan just sighed before going to put on his shoes. I told the other chop times a wasting it, hurried them along. It took 2 buses and a 15-minute walk to get to the clinic. It was closed, but the door was quickly opened after I had knocked. You are why my mate has stayed over, snapped the Surrey goblin guard I had met when I first came back. I just shoved my way past him, making sure to knock him over so the others could pass. Stop it, husband, or you will find yourself sleeping with the cat. You in the exam room, Snag said as she pointed to Toshinori. I need these, so make them, she told me as she shoved a paper in my hand. I said nothing, but left to go to work. Kachan followed me and Izuku and his mother joined us shortly thereafter. Be silent and ask nothing until I am finished. If I make a mistake, it could be deadly. As in I could kill everyone in the clinic, I said as I started to brew. I was finished 4 hours later. I knew I was making some of the potions Sang would be using tonight. And would have to come and make the others over the next few weeks. So what is going on? Izuku asked once we all were in the waiting room. I just handed them the pamphlets that had been printed up. They would answer most of their questions, hopefully leaving me with less to answer. Why haven't you said nothing before now? Both boys asked at the same time, then glared at each other. Laws mostly, but now we are in UA. I could get around that one and tell you, but had to get permission to do so, I said. It was hours later when Healer Snag came out. Here is his potions, make sure he takes one with each meal. The purple one is to be taken hourly for a year. He will heal fully in time, but it will take some time, and remind him to be careful while using his powers while healing. I had an elf take him back to your place. Now get out, I wish to mate with my husband tonight, Snag said. I said nothing but hurried them out of the clinic. It took us longer to return as there was no train to take, so we had to walk more. I sighed when we returned to my apartment. The healer elf and my elf were glaring at each other. Knock it off, you two, and get to your jobs, I snapped. The Y looked at me and nodded before popping out. I poked my head into the guest room. Toshinor, he was asleep, so I left him be. He is asleep, so better let him alone until he wakes. Helps with the healing, I said as I sat down. So he will be all right now? Izuku asked. Who knows, but he won't be doing anytime soon, I said as the food appeared on the table. While waiting for the rest of summer to pass, I put Izuku thought my boot camp and tried my best to teach him some basic hand-to-hand. Kachan even helped much to Izuku dread. And by the time school was to start, he could use his gifted quirk without hurting himself that much. He even told me to call him Deku. Both boys said they would have to think of a nickname for me. Both the boys had somewhat made peace with each other, but still fought as some boys do. I sighed as I packed my school bag. It would be a long week for me. High school was starting, not to mention I had magical cram school too. Both boys thought I was crazy for basically going to two schools. But I had to do so as I wanted to finish my magical schooling. Miss, don't be forgetting your lunch. Izzy also made 2 lunches for friends, Izzy told me. I thanked her before heading to bed. By the time I found my classroom, Kachan was already getting lectured by some boy with glasses. Are you the class representative? I asked as I came over to the best save the poor boy from be not. Everyone could take his blast like Deku could. I had to wonder if that was part of his normal quirk, but knew we would know in a few days as I had talked him into taking the test. No, why do you ask, miss? He asked. My, what a rude person you are. Never thought someone from your family would be so rude, I said as I sat down on Kachan's desk. I did not know anything about him or his family, but feeling just saying what I did would put him off balance. I knew I had hit a sore spot. But before he could say anything, our homeroom teacher came in and told everyone to sit down. We were not in class long before he hurried us out the classroom for a quirk assessment test. It took forever as a lot of the class was worried about the fact Sensei said he would expel the lowest ranking member in our class. Some were sure it was a joke, but the look in his eye told me he was telling the truth. And of course Deku was worried, and that started his mumbling. Sensei, can you not pay attention to me for a few? I asked. Whatever for Potter? He asked. I will bring you a box of your favorite homemade sweet, I said. The man nodded, so I walked over to Deku and smacked him and told him to get it together as we had worked on this. He just nodded at me before I went back to stand next to Kachan. 5th. Kachan yelled. I smiled as he ranted about my placement. Why is he so upset with your placement? He placed higher than you and your friend wasn't last, the girl Deku had been talking to said. No, that had spot had fallen to the boy with bouncy balls for hair. I could have done better, but it's that time, I told her. She blushed and nodded at me. But to my shock, even though he had not lied about expelling the lowest ranking member of the class, he said it was a lie. The next day, we had a normal homeroom, even electing 2 class reps. Somehow the spots went to Deku and myself. It was at lunch that the normality wore off. As the alarms blared and the students panicked, I realized that while most of us were training to be heroes, we all were still children. I cursed as I was pushed into a wall, but need the person that groped me. I used his body to climb onto Deku and Kachan's shoulders. Oh, Grav girl, make speedy lightweight. 4 eyes, get yourself to the front and tell everyone not to panic, it is just the fucking press, I snapped as I stood on Kachan and Deku's shoulders. After the reporters were cleared out and student tended to classes went on. Potter, please stay after. Sensei Aizawa said. I looked at him, then at the clock. Sensei, would it be possible for me to come in early tomorrow? I have cram school today and I cannot be late, I said. Some in the class gave me odd looks. Very well, be here at 6:30 tomorrow. Class dismissed, he said before walking out of the classroom. Do you have any idea what Sensei wants to speak to you about? Grav girl asked. I really should start to remember my classmates' names. I might have need a guy in the hall when the alarms were going off, I said. He had us coming, Deku said as we came to the bus stop. Never thought you of all people would say that, Kacchan said. He groped her, Deku said. I just glared at him while holding Kacchan while he tried to head back to the school. I wear knee pads under my paints and recovery girl would not help him heal once I told her just how he got hurt. He was given a merit and it is just his first week here like ours, I said. I could tell Kacchan was not pleased but left it be. I noticed you wore the boy's uniform, is that why? Ochako asked. Partly a boy in OU. Our last school had a quirk to manipulate fabric and liked to flip the girls' skirts up with it. He did it once to me and I beat the snot out of him and changed uniforms the next day. Just a habit now and nothing in the school rules says I have to wear a skirt, I said as my bus came to a stop. It was late by the time I got out of cram school. I had 2 months worth of assignments and the dates when they all were due. Potter-san, a classmate, dropped some dinner off for you, my neighbor said. I sighed. Izzy would be so mad, but if it was safe I would eat this and take what she made for lunch and share it with the boys. They had, after all, liked their lunches today. Miss should be getting more sleep, Izzy said as I walked around getting ready for the day, thankful I did not have cram school today. I'll take a nap later. But sensei wanted to speak to me. Do you have lunch ready? I asked. I be bringing at lunchtime so it be hot, so you best be at gate to meet me. Izzy said. I just nod. Before leaving I was a little surprised to see both Deku and Kacchan waiting for me at the school gate. I did not ask why they were here, just headed to the classroom. There was a note on sensei's desk telling I had done a good job yesterday and a list of jobs I had to do or assign others to do. He's not showing up, Deku said. Kacchan growled at his statement. Not sure, but we need to plan and pick who is to do what in our class. I said. By the time our classmates started showing up we had a plan on what to do and a promise from Kacchan to help, but I did have to bribe him with some spicy brownies. It took some yelling to get everyone to pay attention, but by the time sensei showed up to start class, roles were assigned with some arrangements. But Bakugo glare made those stop very quickly. Weeks later, as our class sat around waiting for their turn to be healed or waited on news about our sensei Aizawa and sensei number 13, I think we were all thankful for the planes and drills forced them to run in our free periods. Potter, I wanted to thank you for your hard work, Eijiro said. Others in the class nodded as well. I stood so they all could see me. I want to make it clear none of you do not have to thank me. We did what was called for and no one died. That is what I am thankful for, I said before walking out. I had been called into a meeting. I had used magic early that day to save a classmate. I did not regret it and would do so again if called for. The meeting was a long one and it was very late when I was let out. But I had been given permission to tell the rest of my class about magic. Potter-san, why have you asked us all here? Shoto asked. We are still waiting on a few people. Best tell everyone at once, I said. He just looked at me. I waved him off and it wasn't long the last of my classmates arrived. Order what you wish, it is my treat, I said. They started mumbling at that. Now I know you all are wondering why I asked you here. The truth is I have been given the right to tell you about my cram school. You see, magic is real. Yes, what I did yesterday was magic, I said, looking at girls I had saved. Are you sure it's not a quirk? One of my SS mates asked. A quick flick and I had my wand in hand and turned a table into a pig and back again. Would you like to see anything else? I asked. I got a few requests, some I could do and others I could not. I have identity card that you need to carry around that state you are in the know about magic. Heroes are not told until they are a hero for a year. I also had a card that you are to ear in half if you ever run across that thing that about killed our senseis. It is not human and all magical communities have laws about making unnatural life, I said as I floated everyone their cards. Why did you only give Bakugo and Deku one card? Ochako asked. They already knew about magic so they did not need IDs, I said as the waiter came in. As we ate we talked about what happened and what we all could have done better. Does anyone know when the basic first aid classes are? Momo asked. It is a general studies course, Deku said. There are a lot of courses we would find help all but are only offered to general studies students, I told everyone. That is not fair. As future heroes we should know what to do in emergencies, Tenya said. You do know if we have enough people. Ask from our class, we can take extra classes, but it would be after normal classes get out. A cram class, but for only 3 days a week, Bakugo said. Everyone looked at him oddly before he snapped at them. If we do this there will be no backing down and we have to all agree on what classes to take, but I think everyone will agree that first aid should be one of those classes, Deku said. Sakura-chan, what days do you have cram school? Deku asked after the class had chosen to take first aid in the hand-to-hand class. Mondays, Wednesdays and every other Saturday, I said. Why are you in cram school? Ochako asked. It is where I take my magical lessons. I would have to go every day of the week if not for the fact I have tested out of some of my classes, I said. Oh, what ones? Mina asked. Potions, runes, care, astronomy and herbiology, I said. At all the looks I explained what classes were offered and what one did in them. What is no magi studies? Denki asked. In most places, it is the study of blending into the non-magical world, but seeing as I am going to school during the day I do not have to take it. It is also a way for those that come from a non-magical family to keep up with their normal education. There is also a magical custom class one take that one on Saturday, I told them. The following Monday Deku turned in our request to Sensei, who said he would let us know when the classes would start. He did tell us that we would be split by gender for a while in the hand-to-hand class. It was Sensei telling us about the sports festival that the class whispering. I gave Deku a look to see if we should stop it, but he jerked his head in negative. Why such an ugly hat? Kachan asked as I got off the bus. I just pulled it down and at his look I held on to it. Hat was an ugly one that I had gotten from Neville as a joke, but it hid the fact my ears were not in their correct place. I had some trouble with a homework assignment from cram school, I said as he tried to pull it off me. I swatted his hand away and ran ahead of him. No hats in the classroom, Sensei said after he had sat down. Kachan smirked at me and I sighed before taking said hat off. Before I knew it someone was petting my new ears. I moved to hit whoever it was and froze at the fact it was Sensei of all people. Sensei, can you back up, please? I asked. He blinked before telling me he was sorry. Sorry about that, I do not know what came over me. How long will you have the ears? He asked as he stepped back. I am not sure, I am working on gaining my animange form. I am some sort cat. But until I finish the transformation I do not know what kind. But if I have them by Wednesday Sensei Reed will talk remove them with a spell, I said. By Tuesday I had a tale that I knew a few of the boys were watching. Nothing new today, Denki asked as I came in. I grind showing off the fangs I had woken up with. Potter, you are to set out of today's hero class. I spoke with you, our other teachers, and spoke about your transformation. He said until you are transformed back it would be safer if you did not take part, Sensei Aizawa said. I just nodded at that. Would it be alright if I stayed in the classroom and worked on my transformation? I asked. I do not see why not, but be sure to ask All Might about it, Sensei said before telling us there would be a pop quiz. I wasn't the only one groaning. No one never knew what his quizzes were going to be about. Potter, did Aizawa Sensei speak with you? All Might asked. Yes sir, I was wondering if I could stay in the classroom. And work on my transformation. I feel close to finishing it, I said. What a wonderful idea, you work on that. Think like a cat if that helps, he said before patting me on my back. I about fell over, but his thinking like a cat had some merit. So once everyone was gone, I took a seat on Sensei's desk in the sun and closed my eyes for a nap. I was woken up when someone came into the classroom and I could tell it wasn't anyone from my class. I sat up intending to ask them why they were in our classroom. It was only then I noticed I was a cat. I meowed in shock. Why are we here, Nina? One of the girls asked. I wanted to know what this loser class A-1 is like. You heard how pathetic their sensei is, and look, they even have a sickly looking cat as a pet. Only babies have those, my mom said. The IR sensei almost got them all killed a few weeks ago, Nina said. That cannot be true, the school would have let him go if that happened, the other girl said. Janie, it's true, my mom was one of the ambulance workers on the scene. Everyone in our class knows this class is a bunch of losers. They're taking cram class, those are for losers without useful quirks, Nina said. I was glaring at them. Oh hush kitty, Janie said as she reached out to pet me. I hissed at her and I think I shocked them when I spat fire. I know I shocked myself, but they just ran from the room. I did not realize I was pacing when the class returned. You did it, Potter, All Might Sensei said, made me realize that my classmates had returned. B had pulled his phone and took my picture. I blinked at the picture. Just my luck, I was a Hellcat. Are you able to change back? All Might Sensei asked. I shook my head in negative. I had been trying, but had no luck. I was not surprised when he called Sensei Pete, who popped right into the room. At least you took your clothing, unlike some of my other students, he said before flicking his wand at me. Thank you, Sensei, I said with a bow. You pass now. Work on changing and changing back on your own, he said before popping away. Class meeting after school, I snapped before hurrying out of the room. I had to use the restroom badly. Why did you call a meeting? Deku asked as the day ended. I'll explain once everyone is here, I said as I opened my apartment door. We had taken to a having class meeting at my place and Izzy just loved having us all to feed. It did not take long for everyone to show up, and I did not wait for dinner to tell them what I had overheard. Those so-and-so, I cannot think of a word to call them, Ochako said. That was of course after giving a string of curse words. Everyone just looked at her. I for one had never heard her speak as she had. What are we going to do about this? Tenya asked. We let them know just what we think about them bad-mouthing our sensei, Denki said as electricity ran his body. This going to sound odd from me, but we cannot beat them up, Kachan said. It does, but you must have something worse in mind for them then, Deku said. I say we crush them in the festival, Kachan said. Others soon started agreeing and even making plans for if we came up against each other on the one-on-one rounds. By the time dinner was survived, we had decided to play Junkin if we came up against each other. We also worked out as a class and helped train each other in using out quirks. I wish to help with whatever you are planning for Class B, Hitoshi said as he did our cool-down stretches. How come you did not try for the heroes department? I have seen how helpful your quirk can be, I said. I have always been told my quirk was more of a villain than a hero, he said softly. That is bullshit. I saw you talk that woman down and you stopped that guy whom had lost control of his quirk by mistake, I said. He nodded at that. Never in the history of UA have we had this happen, Mike said. I stood grinning as I looked at my classmates and a few that had started working with us from the general class. We had shut out the other class completely. Man, I was hoping to kick some of their asses, Eijiro said. Me too, and the only one whom are going to get a fight are the one up against the Gen Studies, Mina said. We also agreed to the Junkin rule as well, Hitoshi said. Maybe we could ask for a class battle them against us, said the girl with gadgets. Deku, go ask you're one of the class reps, Minoru said, and soon everyone was nodding at that. We all waited as he went over to make the request. He came back to tell us they would have to have a small meeting to see if it was agreeable. Anyo. There one for the history books folks, we will be having a class battle, Class A-1 versus S. Class B-1, Mike Guy said. We all looked at each other and nodded. As we waited for the battle to start, we made plans. We hard arm Guy spy on them. They still think they are better than us and think we are weak for working with those from general studies, he said. I'll show them weak, Gadget Girl growled out. The battle started. It was clear Class B did not know how to fight as a unit. While a few of those that had joined us from general studies had some trouble at first, the other in my class covered them until they found their footing. But in the end, we had won, and it seemed the people loved what happened. Can I have a few words from the class reps? Present, Mike said. Deku looked at me and nodded. A sensei had joined him. Was this planned? Present, Mike asked. Can you clarify your question? Deku asked. Before the battle, it was Class 1A and few from general studies students. Your class FA, Cetive block another class from the second round. Did your class plan that, and if so, why? Present, Mike asked. Yes, and because they insisted. Aizawa sensei, he almost died trying keep us safe and yet they mocked him for doing so. In real life, heroes act to save others even if it will cost them their life, Deku said. I am sure none of my students did what you claim, said a woman whom we had found out to be the homeroom sensei for Class 1B. I nodded to the Kyoka. I had given her a filmed copy of my memory. She had told me she had a way to play it. I had no idea what she was going to do, but it was soon playing on the big screen that allowed those in the audience to see the battles better. At first, there were whispers, but as it finished no one spoke. Detention for a month, Tony and Nitty, the woman yelled. The girl protested. But we're given an extra week for doing so. Their sensei bowed to ours and gave an apology before saying he should be proud of his students. What did you ask? I asked as I looked up from my homework. I asked if you were related to this Potter boy in the paper. Bakugo asked. Both he and Deku had taken to reading my magical papers. I hummed and glanced at the article about how a fourth name had come out of the Goblet of Fire. Yes, we are distant cousin, but there was a falling out between our families, I said as I went back to my homework. I had no. She realized it was that time I had a normal life for once and hoped the plan worked. What is this Tri-Wizard tournament he was chosen to take part in? Deku asked. I hummed before standing, then went to collect some books that would answer their questions. Here, these will answer your questions. Are you guys going to stay in the dorms? I asked. I need to get away from my parents, Bakugo's aide. We both knew how they treated him and it pissed me off. While it wasn't bad, but they did not clearly think he could be a hero. I had overheard them telling him once his quirk was dangerous. And he needed to be careful or he would hurt someone. Mom thinks I should too. What are you going to do? Deku asked. Miss is going to live in dorms and Izzy is going to be a dorm elf to all your little ones, Izzy said as she popped in with dinner. I blinked at that. We had not talked about what I was going to do, but she had already made her choice. I guess I am dorming too, I said. Man, I like being able to have meetings here. B said. I blinked at that. We can still have meetings here. I own the building. It is a family property, I said. They looked at me. Are you rich? Kachan asked. Very much so. But most of it is held in trust until I am 21, and I did not know about my family's money until I turned 11. And the only reason I learned then is it is normal for those in the Potter F.A. Miley to learn mange their trust vault at the age of 11, I said. I hope this did not change our friendship. What do you know about this Potter boy? Kachan asked. I blinked at his question. Not Mew. I have a few books that talk about his family's history, but as I said, there was a falling out over his father's actions. My aunt tried to take him in, but was turned down as he had bloodkin to take him in. I knew there was some trouble shortly after his parents passed as his magical guardian tried to take control over the family vaults, but as he is not the main heir, he could not, I told them. Main heir? Deku asked. I am the main heir to the Potter and Black families. Albus Dumbledore tried to take over my family's holding after James Potter died, but the man forgot that James and RRY were from the second house of the family and the Lord of the Black family was still alive at the time. He was a recluse and more than a bit paranoid. But I cannot blame the man. You would hide if people from your own family were trying to kill you. It was one of the reasons I was not sent to a main magical school, but homeschooled, I told them. They looked at me oddly. But before something else could be said, Izzy popped in and told us to eat. Before I knew it, Yule was here and the dorms had been decorated with everyone in mind. I even got a set of fairy lights. It seems to mean to make a living creature hang around and act as a decoration, Tenya said as I sat a pot of honey water on the mantel. I had at the request of others made a fireplace large enough for everyone that wanted to hang a stocking. A lot of first gens and no magi do, but what they do not realize, the fairies do this willingly. And cannot be held captive, and if mistreated will leave the home. And often they leave a curse behind for the family. I am not sure when these little ones came to my family, but they have been with us for over 100 years. Their clan is a very large one. Those here are less than 5% of the clan. I said. He looked at me oddly before asking where the others are. I told him I had my house elves make sure my homes were ready for them and they always well took care of. But what do they eat? Ochako asked as she joined us. Fruit, nuts and honey water, I said, pointing to the items I had placed on the mantel. I also told them I leave honeycomb out before it was time for them to leave. The following morning was to be our last day of classes before the holiday went underway. Someone gets my homework for me if I miss classes today, I said before running out. I had gotten a TTER from Ragnarok telling to come to the bank as soon as possible. What can Gringotts do for you today, young miss? The teller asked. I handed over the note that had come with the letter this morning. I was quickly told to follow after him and was led to the office I had not been to for almost a year and a half. Do you not have classes today, Potter? Ragnarok asked as I took a set. I do, but you explained everything in the letter and I know the best and the easiest way to fix it. I just need to be entered into another contract that they cannot fight. If I talk with my boyfriend, he might be willing to help. I said. Ragnarok nodded before telling me would get the books that would help me explain just what a contract was, and he also gave me a copy of the contract he had found. I knew Ron well enough. He would have pushed to have it enforced and I would not be happy with him as a husband. I was never happy with his as a so-called friend. Luckily I was only a few minutes late for homeroom and Sensei said nothing. So what had you rushing out of the dorms this morning? Bakugo asked. It is something I will need to talk to you later on about. I have a favor to ask you. It is really to protect me and my family's holdings from another family that might try and get a hold of them. You know my cousin is in that contest over in England. It's deadly if he dies without a will, all his holding revert back to the family. And due to the contest, I had my account manager look into his holding and he found something he did not like. And the more he told me about his findings I disliked the more than he did. It seems some people have been stealing from him and he has never noticed. He is to be brought in for a meeting over the summer break and told about the findings, I said. Okay Bu. Gee, what can I do to help? You said I could help you in some way, he said. Later it will take too long to explain and if you agree we have to go to the bank to fill out some paperwork, I told him. He nodded and went back to his lunch. I wanted to this day to be over and it just seemed to drag on. When classes were finally over I dragged Bakugo to one of the study rooms where we could talk alone. I.e. explain everything I had learned and let him read the books about contracts and the contract that had been found in Harry's paperwork vault. If this is a contact for your cousin, why are you worried about it? He asked. I do not know the Weasley family, but know of them and know if something happens to Harry they would try to force the contact on me. If I had one in place they could do nothing. My account manager thinks it is a fake one. As Dumbledore is not the boy's magical guardian so he had no right to make a contract for the boy, I said. I frowned as he stood. Well, let's go get this over with. The others want to have a party tonight, he said as he stopped by the door. So you'll help? I asked. Yeah, what sort of boyfriend would I be if I didn't help his girlfriend with this, he said. I kissed him soundly for that. And got a few catcalls from our classmates that saw us. The contract was simple, but would block anything the Weasleys tried to do anything. All too soon it was date. I had traveled back in time. It was a week later when I found myself being called back to the bank to help fake my potion master death. After learning about the dark mark one had paid a good CE for any and all information on the mark. It took time, but once I had it, I knew I could remove it and had Gringotts send Snape a letter stating so. It had only been sent a few days ago, but he had already agreed to my plan as he wanted out from under Dumbledore and Voldemort. Ragnarok had even told me he knew of a way to deal with Voldemort permanently and they wouldn't even charge me for their help. Ragnarok had said Voldemort had been bad for business. It would be worse if he returned to said business. The meeting with Snape to remove his mark was over quickly as I only had to hiss a finite spell at it. Did you do what I think you did? Snape asked. I just nodded at him. I hear you have your mastery now. What did you make? He asked. A cure. I made a cure and improved SHIGARAKI to where it works with a pain potion. I said. I knew you were working on SHIGARAKI, but how did you make a cure? I have tried for years to do so, he said. Let's walk and talk. I have to get back to Cam. Soon and you have to go in for a treatment to change your looks. You were working on fixing a werewolf. I was working on changing them. I basically made a potion that would make them into anagamous. Yes, I know there are items in that potion that would kill them. I basically made 2 potions into one and it worked, so they gave me my master and I could not have done it without your help, I said. As I hugged him he patted my head as he came to a stop outside the healer's chambers. Be safe, brat, he said. I left telling him to do the same. What is going on over there? First the tournament and now this, I said as I sat down with my paper. What is it? Ochako asked. A noted potion master was killed and the English ministry is trying to put blame on a man that was cleared of his crimes by the MUCSA last year, I said. I was thankful I had talked Padfoot into going to them. They had cleared him and he had never known I had come over to help, but due to the fact the English ministry he could not go back, and not yet. He had left the handling of the black holding to me. The poor man had not even realized I was already the head of the family. Did you know him? Is why you are upset? She asked me. I knew of him. He sent me a letter of thanks after I received my master's in potions. I said at her odd look. I went and collected all the papers and the books I had about werewolves. Are you giving a lesson on magic? Suyu asked. I guess Ochako asked me some questions and I need all this just to answer them clearly. You are more than welcome to sit in on this, I told her. She and the other joined us. I think it shocked them to learn werewolves were in fact real. One of my classmates asked if vampires were real too. Yes, but if bitten by one you don't turn. I have been told it is very orgasmic. I am not sure how one is turned, as it is a closely guarded secret. But most wizards and witches will never allow a vampire to feed off of them. Nasty things can be done if a person gets a hold of your blood. I said it was then I realized how the goblins were going to deal with Tom. Is something the matter? You just stopped talking? Momo asked. No, I just realized something. You guys can look over the books if you like. I need to make a phone call. I told them before rushing out of the room I needed to talk to Ragnarok right this second just to make sure they were going to do what I thought. After a long phone call that was mostly waiting, I finally got to talk to Ragnarok and he did confirm my thoughts. As the summer went on I used the paper to keep up with the ongoings in England. I had yet to be reported missing, so the plan to get away had worked. Professor Snape had settled well into his new life. In my mother's honor, he took the name Harold Evans with my blessing and the blessing of my aunt. Okay, who has my paper? I want to check the scores, I said. Most of my classmates had taken to reading the magical papers I had delivered in the mornings. But they always LF'd me the sports page so I could quickly check the scores. Sakura, we need to talk to you. It is about something in the paper, Bakugo said. I looked at him. Your cousin was in the paper this morning. It is not like it has been. He and his family were found dead in their home. One of them caught the killers. One man was identified as Peter Pettigrew and there was a snake-like guy, Kachan told me. I blinked a few times at what he was saying. I did not expect myself to start crying, but I did, and he quickly pulled me into my arms. I knew it was all fake, but I still found myself crying. Kachan just held me as I cried. Freedom was the reason I ended up crying myself to sleep. This was the next big step behind permanent freedom. And in a few days, I would know how the Weasley family reacted to Harry's death. I was not surprised at how helpful my classmates were being. My teachers even tried to get me to take time off to grieve. But after explaining that I would need time off to travel to England for the will reading and would like Kachan and Deku to go with me. What truly surprised me was that Yagi-san and Mrs. Midoriya said they too would go along. So 2 days after the announcement, NT came out in the paper, I received an owl from Gringotts. The flight over was a quiet one as no one really wanted to talk. Kachan, Deku, and Yagi-san did not like the robes I had gotten them too much. But I told them it was easier to blend in than to stand out. We were going to be staying a few days in a hotel to get ready for the meeting. I had to get some items to make them blend in and wanted to take them all the allies so they would not be so shocked when went to the bank. I hate to ask, but could we do some shopping before we go back? Mrs. Midoriya asked. I would rather not, but I can take you to the local shopping district when we return home, I told her. She looked at me oddly. I would have to explain about the prejudice she would face if anyone found out she did not have magic. That is fine, dear. I do have one more question. Why did you give us these rings and ear cuffs? She asked, holding out the box as they had yet to put them on. The rings will help you write in angle. If need be, the cuffs will allow you to understand the language. I told them. But we speak and write English already, Deku said. I knew they did. But the others magical do not know that. Before we go into the will reading we will be scanned for magical items. They will be removed and scanned to make sure they are what they are. Items like the translators will be returned, but the wand held until the reading is over. I told them. Okay. Why did you give us sticks? Deku asked. Only for Kachan to smack him upside the head. Think, stupid. I know you read some of those books she has to form England and you, how some people are and why we entered that contract. If they think we are magical they will think twice about doing something. Kachan said. Deku just pouted and said he did not have to so mean. If being mean gets you to think, then we will be mean. I told him. He pouted at me and said I was a meanie too, making the adults laugh. I just sighed at him. Are you going to be okay? Akan asked the morning we were going to the reading. Yes, my family is going to be there. I just got a letter from them this morning, so be prepared to get the shovel talk if the contract is brought up. I told him, I'll just blast them. He told me with smile. I snorted at that. What is so funny? He asked. I think my aunt would bust your ears before you could blast her, and I do not know how your quirk would affect my uncle and cousin. And if you were of age, you would get fined for using your quirk in the bank, I said. They do that? Deku asked as came out of the bedroom the boys had used last night. Yes, they also fine you if you use your quirk in public for no reason in England, Yagi-san said as he came out dressed for the day. I was thankful I had gotten him a glamour band that would not be taken. He was looking more and more like the All Might all the time. I did not know that. I wonder why there are not any laws like that back home. Deku asked. I never realized there wasn't, I said. There are laws like that, but only apply if a quirk is used to harm others, Yagi-san said. Really? Why haven't we been told about them before? Kachan asked, earning an odd look from our teacher. Your homeroom teachers should have told you in middle school, he said. I snorted at that. When? We all had the same homeroom teacher for all of the middle school, and Sakura-chan was in our class for the last 2 years. Any laws about quirk usage were never spoken about, Deku said. Kachan hunched into himself as we spoke about the laws. I knew he felt bad about how he had treated his friend. He should have explained the laws every year, Yagi-san said. I will have to let the other teachers know so they can go over the laws as a refresher, Yagi said. You might want to have words with our school too. There were a lot of problems in the school, I said. The boys winced at that. I knew there would be a talk later. I knew Kachan was not perfect, but that was due to how a lot of people treated him because of his quirk. Deku had told me he was a kind child until his quirk awoke. People had started to treat him a ticking time bomb, save for Deku and his mother. I knew his parents had treated him differently. He had told us that they did not understand how his quirk was so different than theirs. I knew Kachan and Deku had worked out some of their past, but some times they still let the past get to them, mostly when others butted in their fights. I just might do that. Shouldn't you be getting ready? He asked. I nodded before going to do so. The sooner I got this over, the sooner I would get the truth of whom were my real friends. 2 hours later we are handing over our wands and most of the charming items. We had been allowed to keep the bands as they were of goblin make, but would have to return them once the reading was over. We will start soon now that we are all here, Rock said. We cannot start without Dumbledore, he has not shown up yet. Mrs. Weasley said. Mr. Dumbledore is not one of the beneficiaries of Mr. Potter's will, Rock said. Don't be silly. Harry loved Headmaster Dumbledore. The boy was practically his grandson. I will just go and an owl to let him know. Your owl must have gotten lost, Mrs. Weasley said. Do what you like, witch, but you and Dumbledore will not be allowed in as the room will be sealed, Rock said. What? But Dumbledore should be here, she told him. We turned him away when he came and tried to force his way in. Now do you wish to leave? If you do, you will be forfeiting what was left to you, Rock said. The woman huffed but sat down. I could tell Bill was not too pleased at his mother's actions. We are here for the will reading of Harry James Potter, second heir to the Potter family, Rock said. The Seiko. Nd heir. You must be mistaken. Harry was the only Potter left, Granger said. Most others nodded at what she had said. Miss Granger, I am the Potter account manager. I am not mistaken. Madam Bones, I have been asked to give you these memories. They are sealed and certified. Hopeful they will clear up the black case and answer any questions you have about Mr. Potter's death, Rock said as he handed the veils over. Is this the only reason I was invited? If so, could I leave? I have business to attend to, Madam Bones said. No, I still have a few more things to give you. They are memories of Mr. Potter's potion class. He wished to press charges against the man in the event of his death. But with the man dead, it is unlikely he had anything to do with the death of Harry Potter, as he was killed before Mr. Potter and his family. But I still must give you the memories, but I do not know what can be done with them. Rock said. Madam Bones hummed but took the veils. I was not surprised when Hermione and Mrs. Weasley protested. No, what shocked was the fact Hermione tried to take the vials, saying I had no right to badmouth a dead man. She was frozen where she stood. You human have just forfeited what was left to you. Madam Bones, we have finished our business today. Take his human with you when you leave, Rock said. You do not have that right to do that, Hermione yelled. Rock just looked at her and snapped his fingers. I hid a smile when she collapsed. The other goblins dragged her none too gently from the room when Madam Bones left. I could tell the Weasleys were shocked but said nothing, as they did not want to risk losing whatever I had left them. Bully for them, as I had left them each a letter explaining what I had left them and why, as it was the only ones that had gotten anything were Fred and George. And I had mostly left them in a way out a shop in the Ally in Japan. I knew from talking to Bill, Charlie and Percy of all people why they did what they had. Percy might be a pompous person, but he was good at his job. He was only working for the ministry until the job I had lined up overseas came open, and that was soon. As I knew he wanted to leave before his child was born. Letters, that's all Potter left us. That brat was rich and he left us letters, Ron said. I was not shocked or surprised at what he said. I knew for a while he wasn't my friend. More and more I was happy. I had paid to have my so-called friends looked into. Do you not want your letter? Rock asked. No, I want some money after everything I went through because of him. He should have left me some of his money, Ron snapped out. Very well, I will take the letter and any letter that no one wishes to keep, Rock said. Ron tossed his over, but both Bill and Charlie handed theirs back too. May I ask why you two are returning what was left to you? Rock asked. They looked at each other before saying that they did not feel right taking something from a person they had only just met. I asked Mr. Pot why he left you both something, as I did not know if he knew you too. William Weasley. Mr. Potter has paid for you and a team to look into the wards on his former home, and if an agreement can be met, to look at the so-called curse on the Dada teaching course. Mr. Potter has also left a large sum of money for the upkeep and care of a dragon by the name of Norberta. She and you are to be moved to the Japan Reserve by the end of the month, Rock said. They shared a look before picking up their letters and thanked Rock for his explanation. No one else returned their letters. This finishes the will reading for Harry James Potter, Rock said. I have some business that needs to be taken care of. Goblin Rock, Mr. Weasley said. What business is that, Wizard Weasley? Rock asked. My wife and I entered our daughter into a marriage contract with the Potter heir. I would like to get the bride price we paid returned, Mr. Weasley said. I blink he knew about the contract. We had not known that fact. I need to see the contract, Rock said. Mr. Weasley pulled it out of his robe and handed it over. Rock read it and handed it to me. Now see here, some child has no reason to look into these matters, Mr. Weasley said. I am the head of the Potter family and this contract is invalid as it was not signed by any of Harry's guardian. I said. They all paled. We had been in the room with them for a good 20 miles. Newts while waiting for everyone to arrive. Only a few of them had not spoken while we waited, and those that did, what they said was unkind. Dumbledore signed it, and if you are speaking about those muggles, they have no say in this, Mr. Weasley said while glaring at me. Dumbledore has not and never was my cousin guardian, I said. You need to be quiet, child, and let the adults handle this, Mrs. Weasley told me. You which need to mind whom you are speaking to. It seems we have dismissed Madam Bones too soon. There seemed to be a case of attempted line theft here, I said. Why, you brat, you have no idea what is going on. Sir should keep your daughter in line, Mr. Weasley said as he reached for the contract only to fall over. I raised an eyebrow at Bill. He had just cast a silent stunning spell on Father William. What are you doing and why do you have your wand? Mrs. Weasley asked, only to get stunned herself. All of you be quiet, I will handle this as heir of the family. Lady Potter, can you explain what you mean? He asked. I just handed him the contract to read. Once he did so, he cursed a blue streak. I am sorry to say this, but you are correct, Lady Potter. What can my family do to make this right? He asked. The contract is invalid. I will have Rock look into the money, and if it is my family vaults, I will see it returned to your care, I told him. I do not need to look for the money. It was never placed into any accounts I manage. We, however, will start an audit to find the money, Rock said. Wait for a second, if you were a Potter, why did you not take Harry in? Fred asked. We tried, as did others from the Evans family. We were not allowed. We were told that the boy needs to grow up away from those that would use him. Not that is stopping others from doing so. Rock, how close are you to stopping that now? I asked. In 2 days' time I will be finished, Rock said. Other Evans? George asked. Yes, my brother and I were their cousins. We tried time and time again to take Harry from Petunia and her husband. Even if we want to be thought the no magi courts, someone interfered by spelling away the case files and erasing the memory of all those involved. My aunt said while my new uncle nodded. Great Potter sent out will invites to muggles, Ron said none too softly. I would watch your tone, young man, Uncle Harold said as his hand came alight. I blinked. At that, so that was what his quirk was. I tried not to shiver at the black fire in his hand. We would have a talk once back at school. The rest of the reading went quickly after that, and once we were done all of us headed for the airport. Are you okay, Mrs. Midoriya asked once we were on the plane. I am not sure. There is a lot you guys cannot know due to the facts they're bound in blood for safety reason, I said. We are here if and when you want to talk, she told me before hugging me. I gave her a quick hug back, but once she released me, Aunt Petunia and the rest of my family including Snape pulled me into a hug. I was about to tell them goodbye once more, but they just told me they would be joining me. Thanks for watching.